Gives me the thumbs up. We're ready to go. We're good, Lewis? Okay. We start off this morning with the public hearing. I'm Mark Pendergraft, and I'll be chairing this morning's public hearing. This is a public hearing for proposed Regional District of Okanagan-Smilkameen bylaw numbers 2800.63/2026, zoning bylaw amendment for electoral area A, and 2800.60/2026, zoning bylaw amendment for 8380 Gallagher Lake Frontage Road, electoral area C. The proposed bylaws and related information, including written comments received to date, are available for review at the head table. At this public hearing, all persons wishing to speak will be given an opportunity to do so and are asked to commence their remarks by stating their name and address. Written comments may be submitted before closure of this hearing. Anyone wishing to speak at this hearing is asked to do one of the following. If you are participating in person, please step up to the microphone. If you are participating by a computer, please click the raise hand button, which can be found in the participants panel on the right-hand side of your computer screen. This will indicate that you wish to speak. If you were participating by phone, please press *3 on your phone's keypad. This will also indicate that you wish to speak. Having indicated that you wish to speak, you will then be placed in a queue until you are invited to speak. All speakers will be restricted to a time limit of 5 minutes until everyone who wishes to speak has had an opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to speak a second time may do so by following the same protocol of stepping up to the microphone, selecting the raise hand button, or by pressing *3 on your phone's keypad. To submit written comments, please submit them prior to the close of this public hearing by emailing them to planning@rdos.bc.ca. And for those attending in person, you can place them at the head table. I will now ask Ben Kent, Planner 2, and Tarini Parkash, Planning Technician, to outline the specifics of the proposed bylaws. So over to Ben.
Okay, the first item on this morning's public hearing is RDOS file number A2026.001-zone. It's a proposed zoning bylaw amendment in electoral area A. The location of this amendment applies to 25 parcels that are located at Ravenhill Road and 9 Mile Place on Anarchist Mountain. The OCP designation of these parcels is large holdings, and the zoning of these parcels is large holdings 1 site specific. The purpose of this proposal is to replace that site specific large holdings 1 zone with a standard large holdings 1 zone. And this review was prompted by a zoning bylaw amendment application that was received by the regional district at 31 9 Mile Place, seeking to remove the restriction on accessory dwellings. And due to the nature of this request, it was seen to have broader merit for all of the parcels zoned large holdings 1 site specific. And so the board opted to consider review of all of these parcels at once rather than potentially on a case-by-case basis. The origins of this large holdings 1 site-specific zone date to 2003 and relate to an early phase of the Regal Bridge development. And the site-specific provisions in this zone restrict non-residential uses, limit the density of residential uses to 1 principal dwelling unit, and also limit the number of livestock. In comparison, the relevant permitted uses in the standard large holdings 1 zone allow for a broader range of rural residential uses. Just by way of example, an equestrian center is a permitted use in this zone. The large holdings 1 zone does not limit the number of livestock for parcels that are greater than 2 hectares in area, which all of these parcels in this amendment are greater than 2 hectares in area. Similarly, the maximum number of dwellings in comparison to the large holdings 1 site-specific zone, which only allows 1 secondary suite and 1 principal dwelling. The LH1 standard zone allows for 1 principal dwelling and either 1 secondary suite or 1 accessory dwelling, and that's for parcels that are less than 8 hectares in area, and that's all of these 25 parcels would be less than 8 hectares in area. And so just in summary, the proposed amendment is to amend the zoning of the properties under the Okanagan Valley zoning bylaw number 2800/2022 from large holdings 1 site specific to large holdings 1.
The second portion of today's public hearing pertains to the zoning bylaw amendment for the RDOS file number C2025-015 zone. The parcel in question is 8380 Gallagher Lake Frontage Road, which is right just off of Highway 97. And the official community plan designation is commercial, and it is zoned tourist commercial CT1. And the parcel is 0.4 hectares in size, and it is within the rural growth area. And it's serviced by Gallagher Lake water and Gallagher Lake sewer systems, which is subject to operation agreements with OIE. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to allow for cooking facilities within the proposed tourist accommodation, which contains 19 sleeping units. The relevant permitted uses are tourist accommodation, which is a permitted use, and the proposed motel style of tourist accommodation is defined as buildings containing housekeeping and or not less than 6 sleeping units, with each with an interior entrance and designed to provide temporary accommodation for the traveling public. And the sleeping unit definition is 1 or more habitable rooms used or intended to be used for sleeping or sleeping and living purposes, but excludes a cooking facility. The site-specific amendment that is being proposed will allow for cooking facilities within these sleeping units. To summarize, the proposed amendment is to amend the zoning for the property under the Okanagan Valley zoning bylaw number 2800/2022 from tourist commercial CT1 to tourist commercial site-specific CT1S.
Okay, thank you for that. I will declare the public hearing hearing open and ask if there is anyone who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaws. I'll ask for a second time. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaws? I'll ask for a third and final time. And am I missing anybody online that you're seeing, Lewis? Okay. Seeing nobody and hearing none, I hereby declare the public hearing closed at 9:07. And thank you everybody for your attendance on that and patience. We will move straight into the regular board meeting. We have before us a proposed agenda, and there was a request from the applicant of item B4 to have that removed. So we would be asking for motion to approve the agenda with that amendment. Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. It brings us down to the consent agenda, corporate issues. Looking for a motion on that one? Moved. Seconder, thank you. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to development services, rural land use matters. B1 is the subject of one of the subjects of this morning's public hearing. Over to the CAO.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to remove the site-specific zone provisions that apply to approximately 25 parcel fronting Raven Hill Road and 9 Mile Place, electoral area A. In order to accomplish this, it is proposed to amend the zoning of the property scheduled under Schedule 2 zoning bylaw number 2800. Staff is here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. If I could ask someone to move that for me. Seconded, thank you. Any discussion on this one? Seeing no hands, this is a rural vote. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Brings us down to B2, optimize the development approval process, secondary suite review. Over to the CAO.
Thank you. The proposed amendment bylaw 2800.59, 2026 is to amend regulations in the Okanagan Valley zoning bylaw 2800, 2022 relating to secondary suites. Specifically, the proposed amendment seeks to remove floor area restrictions that apply to secondary suite permit, permitting the site of secondary suites within a duplex dwelling. Staff is here to answer any questions you may have. No PowerPoint.
Okay. It's moved. Is there a seconder for that? It's on the floor. Any discussion on this one? Not seeing any hands and a rural vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Over to B3, zoning bylaw amendment in electoral area C. CAO.
Thank you. This application is seeking to amend the zoning of the subject property in order to allow cooking facilities within the tourist accommodation. And again, staff is here to answer questions, and I don't see a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, Director Chahal, direction on this one?
Thank you, through the chair. I'd like to move the administrative recommendation.
Okay, you're moving third reading. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you. It's on the floor. Any discussion on this one? This was also the subject of this morning's public hearing. Again, not seeing any hands, and this one is a rural vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. That brings us down to B5, STR program amendments. Over to the CAO.
Chair, this is going so fast that the recommended motions aren't on the screen, so I'll either slow down or read the motion. Okay, so that worked, so we can see it on the screen now. So
okay.
This application is seeking variance to the interior parcel setback that applies to the subject property in order. No, am I looking at the wrong one?
Yes, B5. B4 was withdrawn.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, now you really have it up. Okay. The first bylaw amendment will replace the requirement of a health and safety inspection report in support of a short-term rental accommodations with the self-declaration to be completed by a property owner or applicant confirming compliance with the basic health and safety standard. In addition, it is proposed to remove the term limit of 1 year that applies to the delegated authority that has been granted to the chief financial officer, chief administrative officer to issue short-term rental permits. Staff's here to answer questions. And there is no PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, this one's broken down into 3 separate votes. So the first section on this one, looking for a motion to move that. Seconded, thank you. So it's on the first. Is there any discussion on that? Not seeing any hands. The first part is an unweighted participants vote. So it's A, D, E, and I voting on it. Call a question on that. All in favor? Great, looked unanimous. So I won't ask if there's anyone opposed. And the second part of that is the Chief Administrative Officer delegation. Mover for that. Seconded, thank you. Any discussion on that? Again, not seeing any hands. This one's an unweighted corporate vote. So all those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. And the third portion of this is the development procedures. Mover for that. Moved, thank you. Seconded on the floor. Any discussion? Again, no hands, and this is rural vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Down to community services, item C1. Over to the CAO.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to seek board authorization for the RDOS chair to sign a letter of support for the Grist Mill Operation Society in support of its application to the Federal Building Communities through Arts and Heritage Grant Program. Staff is here to answer questions.
Is there direction on this one? You're moving it and seconding. It's on the floor. Thank you. Any discussion? Fairly straightforward by the sounds of it. Seeing no hands. This is a corporate vote. Oh, sorry, did I miss a hand? Go ahead, Director Taylor.
I may have missed it. I'm just wondering, what's the that's potentially being applied for and cost sharing?
I will go to staff.
Thank you very much, Chair. The amount that the SCDA is applying for, I just confirmed to the Executive Director who is in the audience, if there are further questions, is $200,000.
Okay. And the cost share of it?
It is not a cost share, so this is not an RDOS application. This is simply a letter of support from the RDOS to hopefully bolster the application.
Okay. All right. Pardon me? If you want to have something to add, go ahead, Director Roberts.
Just to follow up for Director Taylor, so that people know that the work that's being done, the grist mill's pretty exciting, and with the 150, we've had to put in a lot of effort. The facility itself has had some different upgrades. There's some exciting movement on going forward, and this year is kind of like a build back better year to set up for the 150. So this will be very helpful for basically launching the grist mill in the direction that it is going. And it's pretty darn exciting. And I do encourage anybody to come out and visit the grist mill and see all the great things that are happening. Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion? Not seeing any hands. Again, corporate. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Over to protective services, an agreement with the ORL CAO.
Thank you, Chair. Extreme heat and cold events pose an increased risk to public health and community safety with disproportionate impacts of vulnerable population, including seniors, individuals, and chronic health conditions, people who are unhoused and underhoused, and those who are lacking adequate heating or cooling. Climate protection indicates that these events will become the frequency, more intense and longer in duration. This agreement will allow the library to use their facility to help these people that need it. And staff's here to answer any questions that you have.
Okay. There's a mover and a seconder. It's on the floor. Any discussion on this or questions? Quiet bunch this morning. Seeing no hands, again, this is a corporate vote. We'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to D2, Fire Safety Act, appointment of the investigator and inspector, CAO.
Thank you. This is essentially for information to inform the board that Tony Ionella is a new role for manager of regional fire services. Will continue to be a point of contact for the RDOS fire inspection and investigations. So Tony was originally named in this, as his position as fire chief. He's no longer fire chief. His position. So this is just to give a board update. And if they have any questions, they are here to answer your questions.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this item? Again, seeing no hands. Oh, Director Roberts, go ahead.
Other than, of course, just stating congratulations. Welcome on board.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Down to D3, Bill M214, CAO.
The purpose of this letter to Premier Eby is to formally outline concerns regarding the impact that the proposed Bill M214-2025 Firefighter Health Act may have on volunteer fire service, particularly in the legislation process to royalists within adequate financial and operational conditions for the fire department. What this bill, if this bill passes, the operating budgets for the fire departments, not just us, but every fire department, will increase materially. Can be anywhere. If it's the best case scenario, might be $900 up to $900 per person. but I have heard of one municipality going up to over $2,000 per person. So staff is here to answer any questions you may have.
Director Federico, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. I had to do a little bit of research on this because I wasn't quite sure what it was. So from what I saw, it potentially has already reached a cent. So I'm not sure if you saw, that's just what Google gave me. So I could be not clear on that. And then also, I had a bit of an internal struggle with this one because I kind of understand where the bill's going in terms of the health and safety, and that's incredibly important. And so it was, where's the balance in between? I get the financial piece because it can be quite expensive for our smaller departments. And we don't want to put that cost bearing on them for sure. So how then do we balance out the health and safety of our departments? And then that financial piece, just because we want all of our members, you know, their health is very important.
Over to staff.
Through the chair, thank you for that question. We are not trying to stop the health bill from going through. What we're trying to do is encourage the premier before he puts it through. Hopefully he has not. We've not been made aware that it has received royal assent, but if it goes through, to attach funding for it, and that is what we're concerned about. Because and not just at our regional district, but across British Columbia, small municipalities, small rural areas will not be able to afford the cost in the long run. This could significantly impact providing fire services effectively. And many of our volunteers, in fairness, without being judgmental at all, are older.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on this one? Not seeing hands there. Direction on it? Looking for the motion moved. Seconder for that. It's on the floor. Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to Legislative Services, RDOS Election Procedure Bylaw, CAO.
It's that time of year where these have to be updated to adopt the election and assent voting procedure and automated voting county bylaws that will be used for the 2026 local elections in October 2026. Staff's here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, direction on this one. We have the proposed motion there. Director Taylor? Sure, go ahead.
Just what happens with these? I just didn't see what happens if the machines fail.
Over to staff.
Sorry, Director, what fails?
The machines.
The machine. Oh, sorry. So if the machine fails in the bylaw, it speaks to if the machine becomes inoperable. That's not the right way to say that. Anyway, it doesn't work. Let's put it there. Then there is another compartment where ballots can be dropped into. If we can't get the machine going again, then it will turn into a count. But by all means, we have support during the day from the company that runs or just the machines. We do rent them, we don't own them, and they are usually able to help us and get them going again for the night. So if that does happen during the day, then at the end of the night, when after the 8 o'clock, the ballot box that has had just the ones fed into is open, and they're all fed through the machine.
Okay, follow up, Director Taylor.
Just one last question. Are these new machines that we've not used before, or have we?
So the regional district does not usually use automated vote tabulation machines, and that's because our elections are usually they're not usually. There's one director or one question, and we use paper ballots. However, this is anticipation of Okanagan Falls and the responsibility that the regional district has to run that election. And when it comes to municipal elections, with one mayor and say 4 councillors with multiple people running for those 4 seats, it's very onerous to hand count it. And the vote tabulation machine is much more accurate than humans are. So we have not used these specific machines before. Randomly through the past years, the RDOS used other vote tabulation machines for other questions. But typically for the rural areas, we do a manual count, but this one is updated specifically for them.
Okay. Director McCordoff.
Thank you. And I have read through it. As now we're going through it as well. Looking at this option in serious. I'm just wondering, is there a lot of difference between what you're proposing now and what happened 4 years ago?
For the staff.
Thank you, Chair. So for the regional district in our so first of all, we used to have one bylaw for elections, and it included vote tabulation machines, mail ballots. It was the whole gamut. This year, we decided that because we were specifically looking at Okanagan Falls and using the machine for the very first time, specifically for a municipal election, we split the bylaws to make it very clear as to this is for vote tabulation. Otherwise, the election bylaw will handle the rest of the rural areas. The machines that are being used now are a bit different from, well, actually 4 years ago, if we had used the machine, it would have been the same, but I know we didn't use the machine 4 years ago. So it is the same machine that's been for probably, if I had to guess, probably about 6 or 8 years. So it is a tested machine and it works well. We were able to connect with the city of Penticton, who has gone through a number of by-elections recently. They've used those machines each time, and they've had great success with them. So.
Okay. Director Holmes.
Is the regional district also responsible for running the school board elections in the rural areas as well? And how does it fit into all this?
Ms. Batt.
So as I think probably our municipal directors know, it's a requirement of a municipality to run a school district election. However, in the regional district, we enter into an agreement with the school district to run. So I am working with the school district right now. Once again, it will be a paper ballot because it is only one position for the school district positions.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Not seeing any hands. We have the motion on the floor, or do we not? Ms. Batten, go ahead.
Sorry, no, we don't have a motion yet. Just one other thing I wanted to point out for the board. In the election and assent voting procedure bylaw, we have updated the section around mail ballots. There was not a lot of language around how mail ballots were handled, and we made that prescriptive. So the public or people running will understand how that process works.
Okay. So someone prepared to move this? Mover, seconded, thank you. Any further discussion? Not seeing any hands, call the question. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to CAO reports. Over to the CAO.
Just 2 items today. The regional district is honored to recognize Fire Chief Jody Woodford, Fire Chief of Tulameen and Coleman, who received the Governor General's Award and Medal for exemplary service of 20 years. Jody, Fire Chief, also was presented with a Provincial Office of the Fire Commission for BC Long Service Award of 25 years. So I just wanted to recognize her as for the achievement that she deserves.
Okay, congrats to her.
And on Sunday, we had our first pop-up office in Missoula Lake. It went very well. There was approximately 80 people. We've changed the meeting dates so that it coincides where it can for their local barbecue or for their community meeting. So just let everyone know there's 7 or 8 others planned. And the last one for the year will be Anacus Mountain the fire chief there. Thank him for organizing it. And if there's any other areas that wants to be included, let me know. Oh, and also coffee with the CAO. There's only one that is confirmed. And if any one of you would like to have that in your area, let me know and we'll arrange it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. No hands coming up. So moving on to other business, chair's report. I neglected to mention the last time from our grant in aid that we gave to Summerland for the Field 96 project. There was a little token of the group's appreciation that Mayor Holmes handed off to me last meeting. And it was a long meeting and I kind of forgot about it sitting here. So I just wanted to mention it, that it's received. It's Miss Batten, I think, was going to put it in a display case, but she can mention where it's at.
Yes, Mr. Chair, it has been placed in the display case just outside the door of the.
Okay, so feel free to take a peek at that as we go by. Director Federico.
Yes, Senator, I have a question on that because I was down at the field and I noticed that the RDOS logo is not anywhere present down there. So just wondering if that is coming.
See,
I've asked communications to come up because we have brought up the issue.
Communications is here, so over to Eric.
Yeah, we spoke with the people who we worked with on the grant, and they were unaware that the RDOS logo was required to be on the sign or that there was an expectation. So we're still investigating. I think what we have to do is just confirm more about what happened at the meeting. So I have to review the YouTube tape. But they were very open to having the RDOS logo on the sign. So it's just a matter of working out the logistics of providing the sign and getting it up, or the logo rather, and getting it up on the board. But it is a work in progress. We won't let it go.
All right, thank you for that. Director Monteith, and then
through the chair, I would like to make a motion that we review our grant and aid bylaw to include that as like a standard practice, as an expectation for all grant and aid, regional grant and aid.
Okay. Is that something we should deal with right now, CAO, or?
No, that I not only agree with that, I'd like to ask if you can change it to any tax-funded project building should have our logo. I personally go after the individuals that get grants and ask them to put it on there. For instance, when we went to Missoula Lake, it was very obvious that none of our buildings have a logo, and yet it's a tax. That's a user fee funded. Mm-hmm. So that's something that if I don't know if a CAO can make a friendly amendment, but I would
just going to ask, do we need that as a motion, or is that just a policy, or what? How is the best way to deal with this?
We can make it into a board policy.
Okay. So we'll bring that back at some point in the future. Okay. Director Graham.
Yes, thank you, the chair. I'd just like to make a little suggestion regarding the baseball scorebook or clock. There'd be no real residual effect putting our logo on that score clock. It'll be too small. But if you go to the field now, they've put banners inside the fields along the outfield. They're big, they're brandable. You see the actual companies that have donated. So I would suggest that we would just ask that we get a same banner that can be put in the outfield on the fencing. Again, if putting our small RDOS logo on the scorebook or score clock is the want, I mean, in my humble opinion, it's not going to look very good, and we have far better effect with our logo being nice, big, and bold out in the field, so everyone that's there watching the games can actually see it. Thank you.
Okay, good comment. Sure, take that into consideration. Other items? I don't think there's anything to report further than that. Director's motions. We do have one suggested, one from Director Taylor. Over to you.
Yeah, so I'd like to make the motion that's on the screen there, and if I can get a seconder, I'll speak to it.
Seconded, thank you. It's on the floor. Go ahead, Director Taylor.
Yeah, first off, I'd just like to acknowledge that this is an issue that's been identified by the Incorporation Committee a couple of years back, and also picked up on by the Parks and Rec Commission, and I believe we have a couple of representatives online watching the meeting now. They weren't able to get to the meeting, but they wanted to give their show of support. The Parks and Rec Commission's also sent a letter to very similar to this effect here. The issue is that we've got two parks that were actually partially donated and or purchased with residents' tax money, and yet they are classed as regional parks. Okay, so when you look at the definition for a regional park, it means that the region as a whole pays for it, operating costs, and contributes to the purchase cost, if any. In this case, the purchase cost, if any, was borne entirely by Area D, and the maintenance costs have been borne entirely by those in the service area, which is mostly Area D. So what we're looking for is to ensure that those parks are community level parks and they do not reside, so to speak, with the regional district. So we're looking for recognition and clarification in all of our RDOS bylaws, et cetera, that these are local parks as opposed to regional.
Okay, any discussion on that? Don't see any hands. Call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Any other directors' motions? Again, not seeing any hands there. We'll go down to board members' verbal updates, the board representation. Municipal Finance Authority, the meeting was in late April. I emailed out the latest report from MFA to everybody. I hope that was done on Tuesday or Wednesday. I forget which day, but if you've got it, feel free to take a read of that. The one thing of note I would say, and it's been a while since we've actually had the chair of the MFA not be from Metro Vancouver, and this time it happened to be Tom Dias from Kelowna who got elected, which is rather unusual. Metro has a large percentage of the vote down there and worked out differently this time around. Municipal Insurance Association, nothing there until fall. OBW. Anything there, Director Holmes?
Just that the board has adopted a new strategic plan, strategic direction for 2026 to 2030. And I believe Melissa, the CEO, is going to all the and presenting it. No, she's coming to Summerland next week to present it. So I'm presumably she'll be coming to the board here, I imagine.
She not coming today?
Oh, is she? Is she coming here today?
I'm thinking it's pretty quick. If
oh, there you go.
Today.
So newsflash. So, and the only other thing was the Make Water Work launch yesterday, and I'll let McCordock speak to that since it was in the news.
Okay, over to Director
Thank you
McCordock.
very much. So yes, OBWB Make Water Work launch has happened. It happened in Esuias because we won the most pledges last year, and so it's Make Water Work Plant Fire Smart. So there was we had several people from OBWB yesterday that were in Esuias. The chair was there. The Melissa, the executive director, and Carmen was there as well, who looks after all of the communications, and Amanda and Carolina. So it was well attended by OBWB staff and my staff, because I made them all come outside. and it was very nice, although it was terribly windy. The main thing this year is protecting what matters, being water smart, and stay fire smart. So as you know, fire smart and make water work are working together like they did last year. So because the launch has started yesterday, to get the most pledges, Asuyas challenges the other communities in the valley because we'd like to win the award again in September. And so we're on it. And I challenge everybody else in the other communities to go on and pledge. And it's open now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving on to Okanagan Film Commission. Anything there, Director Coyne? See him shaking his head, nothing to report. Okanagan Regional Library, anything there, Director Federico?
Yes, thank you, the chair. We had a meeting yesterday. So we approved last year's audited financials. And so there was a bit of conversation about Bill 28 in Alberta. It's pretty limiting on and restrictive on what libraries materials they can have out, where, who can take them out. So it was an interesting bit of discussion and information. So the board has agreed to endorse a letter from the Canadian Urban Library Council and just their thoughts and feelings on where Alberta is going with that. And then we're slowly going through our policy manual. So we've just updated a few things there.
Okay, thank you for that. Sterile insect release, anything, Director Bush? No? Simia, anything there, Director Coyne?
Yeah, we had a meeting and I wasn't able to go, but apparently I'm vice president again or vice chair,
Okay.
whatever it is.
Well, congratulations.
They nominated me since I wasn't there.
Starling Control, I think we had the presentation from them lately, and Director Chahal is volunteered to take that one on. Good for you. Nothing new to report, or
nothing new?
Okay. Etsy BC, nothing there. Collaborative leadership table, anything new there? Yeah, okay. Nothing to report there yet. That brings us to the closed session. So that in accordance with section 91A, D, and M of the Community Charter, the board closed the meeting to the public on the basis of personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality, the security of the property of the regional district, and the matter that under another enactment is such that the public may be excluded from the meeting. So looking for a motion to go in camera on that basis. Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. So I'll give Lewis a minute to put us in camp. Okay, we're back in open session. I'm just gonna say we need to adjourn here and then we can move into a short break.
She said that we could do the garbage.
Okay, sure. So looking for a motion to adjourn here. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Great. Any opposed? We are adjourned, and we're a little bit ahead of schedule here. So what we're going to do is move into the committee of the whole, start and maybe be able to deal with a portion of that, recess, and then start the hospital district meeting. So I turn it over to Vice Chair Watt.
Thank you, Chair Pendergrass. And so hearing that, we'll try to move along. Hopefully we can deal with the curbside carton upsizing fees prior to breaking for the hospital board and not leave that in the middle. So I get a motion to in favor of adopting the agenda. Seconded? All in favor? Yes, we are calling everybody. Thank you. And a motion to adopt the minutes from May 21st. Seconded? Thank you, Director Graham. All in favor? Thank you. And then so moving forward, again, hopefully we get butts back to the seats as we're still in our meeting. Although we have enough to keep going for now. And moving on to the additional curbside cart and upsizing fees, I refer to our CAO.
Thank you. So with the curbside, to outline the rationale for the additional $5 monthly fee charge to customers for an additional 120-liter garbage cart up to 240-liter garbage cart. We do have a PowerPoint presentation and staff here to answer your questions.
Thank you, Chair. All right. So the curbside cart program, it was essentially designed to handle the average household needs, the standard package, 120-liter garbage cart, 240 recycling, and the 240 for the yard waste cart. The solid waste management plan, it talks about waste diversion and recycling and increasing or decreasing our garbage that we're actually landfilling. And this goes along with that. Which one is it? There we go. Okay. So in the fees and charges bylaw, we have the base fee, which is what each service area pays for their curbside collection. And it's different for each area and some sub areas. That's the base fee. When someone calls us and asks for a change out, say they want a 240 cart as opposed to the 120, there's a $45 fee. And that fee is a one-time charge, and it's paid to Waste Connections, who are the ones that actually deliver the new carts, pick up the old one, and bring it to us. The $5 per month for the upsized garbage is what we have in there, and it's based on a user pay principle. The additional weight that's collected in carts will increase the tipping fees, because the way it works is our curbside contractor collects the garbage, we pay the contractor to do that, but we also pay the tipping fees when they come into the landfills, and this has to get buried. That's part of what goes into the base fee. So trying to just kind of put it in perspective a bit. Historically, the garbage bags that were allowed 95 liters, a typical bag is about 15 kilograms. Industry standard says it's about 15 to 20 kilograms. So if we assume that people would put out two full garbage bags, about 30 kilograms per week. The standard cart is the 120 liters, and it's has a reduction of about 27%. It works out, it's about 22 kilograms. When we upsize the cart, it's actually an increase on what they historically had by about 50%. So it goes up to about 45 kilograms that they would be able to put out. And this is kind of based on what the industry standards are for what average waste would be filling up a 120 at a 240. So in terms of costs, historically, if you had two 95-liter bags that were full every week, you'd be paying the tipping fees of about $195 for the year. And that's what's built into the base fees. For the standard carts, if you fill it up every week, you'd actually have a decrease in the tipping fees, which fits with our solid waste management plan principles of diversion and reduction of waste. But when we get a larger cart, the 240 liters, which is double, there's an increase of about $100 over the 195. So by having this extra cart, it does increase the overall tipping fees quite a bit. So the difference was $100, but we're only charging 60 because the average household wouldn't fully fill the 240 liter every week. So the typical usage, we took all the calculations, and it's like, no, we're going to say 60 instead of the 100 because it makes more sense. But it collects, what we kind of figure about the reasonable tipping costs, and then we don't overcharge people. People might only fill it 3/4 full every week. So $60 a year, $5 a month was what we considered kind of a good base for that. So with the potential of reducing the $60 and removing the $60 extra charge for the 240 liter, there's a few financial things to consider with this. The larger carts do cost about double that of the 120 liters, and we would expect that there would be a significant uptake of people wanting the larger garbage carts that currently have the 120s. So there would be quite a bit of new carts. We would have to put in a new order to receive the carts, and then we would have quite a surplus of the 120 liters. The additional 240 carts also cost more to repair and maintain, and then of course replace down the road. So the impact to each of the customers, right now we have 756 people that are paying the $60 per year. So it works out to about $45,000 spread out over all of the different service areas. We expect it to go up by maybe 2/3 or even double, because we know we had a lot of people requesting an additional, a larger cart, but when they heard the price, they said, no, we don't need it. So they decided to stick with their 120. So we anticipate there would be quite a few people that would want to take the 240. So if we were to eliminate the the $60 fee, right now each person, their base fee would increase by about $5 to $7 annually, just to cover this extra cost of the tipping fees for the 240 carts. Plus, there would also be the capital cost of the new carts that would have to get covered. So essentially, it is 5 to 7 annually is what it currently is. So next year it may be quite a bit more, up to $10, $12. So depending on how many people would want to take the larger carts. So in summary, we based it on a user pay. Those that create more garbage pay more for the tipping fees. And it aligns with our solid waste management plan. And also helps with our landfill capacity management, encouraging people not to throw everything out, to reduce their garbage, increase their recycling and diversion. So basically, the elimination of the fee will shift the costs to all of the users, and we'll have some additional costs to try and cover, such as capital costs and increased maintenance and operations and maintenance costs. And that is all I have.
Director Roberts.
Yeah, thank you. Through the director. And yeah, I do appreciate that we're trying to reduce cost, or the amount going into our garbage. And that was why. So for instance, back on October 10th, 2024, we were making a statement that our recycling was going to take in food waste. And of course, that was part of the plan to have a smaller unit. In regards to the numbers that you provided, in regards to how we did things historically, yes, the 2 bags that were 95 liters each, but at the same time, because we had the lifting capacity trucks as well. As stated on the website, we were able to, people were able to, for the same cost, get two 120-liter containers or a 240 at a maximum of 57 kilograms. Now, again, yes, we want people to do less. I think it would be great to, rather than using a stick, to use a carrot and to charge people less to get a smaller container, but maintain the comparable price for something. When we ended up having for waste management go up over 100% for our costs, but we didn't lose 27%, we lost 50%, because you could have, as per our website, two 120-liter containers. My concern is it because it's an ongoing, I would say it's like, for instance, if we're going to do a bigger cart, we'll charge more than the $45. You know, I think people will be able to have that choice. I also don't believe as many people are going to uptake it. I think a lot, especially like in my area, a lot of people are in mobile home parks. That's up. The 120 is quite fine, and most of the people that would have the 240 have already chose to do it because they've been able to see. If we could change the concept a little bit more now, if we did something like that and said, hey, it's going to cost you less to do the 120. I get it, but once you do this one cost, it's going to be this much and it'll cover. But I still have a hard time that we've had such a huge increase. And then on top of it, we've lost 50% of the capacity. And then on top of that, to maintain, if you need that, you're paying, I would say, an additional tax of $5. Because we set the tipping fees. So we have control of the numbers. Yes, it's a solid waste management plan because we would like to reduce, but we need to be working harder towards green waste removal and food waste to be able to do those kinds of things. But I still find it challenging that, we've gone in such a way that we've made such increases at such a loss in capacity. I find it quite difficult, to be happy with that in regards to the needs of my community. So anyways, that's my heartfelt thought about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Roberts. Director Holmes.
Yeah, I don't think the carrot works. I think if you want people to reduce, you have to make them pay more. Simple as that. And why should people who do make the effort to reduce have to subsidize the people who don't make the effort to reduce? So I think what was presented makes total sense.
Director Federico.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's many ways we can skin this cat for sure. I mean, we could argue that we just go to the larger bins and we'll give you, $10, $15 off a month if you reduce it to a smaller bin. So it looks like, now we're encouraging you in the other way to come to a smaller bin and you can save a few dollars that way. I think in this case, right, we're looking at a potential hardship that if somebody maybe needs a larger bin, maybe a single parent household with kids and, reducing waste, you'd love for them to do it, maybe isn't feasible. Is there a way to have like a hardship fund or prove that there's a hardship that if they needed that larger bin for whatever reason but couldn't afford it, there's a way to help in that situation, opposed to a blanket, remove it, add it, whatnot, just potential case by case. I get increased workload. I get how we figure that out. But I think in this case, it might be something that might be a bit of a bridge on where we want to go with this.
Thank you. CAO, you want to comment?
If so a policy like that is set up, the board could certainly do that, but I wouldn't recommend it because how do you define hardship and who decides what that is and who gets it? So just a comment.
Follow up, Director Federico.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate that. And I think that's where a policy would outline that. Recreation has a hardship fund. There's other local government services that can look at this. So again, it's maybe a bit of extra work. I get that. And we need to be looking into that to determine it. But I still think that as an option would be something that we could offer for our residents.
Any other questions? Director Taylor.
I don't think anybody's happy with almost any aspect of this contract, pricing, et cetera. And so I see, problems. There's lots of issues we could pick with. I think this is a pretty small thing to be in the scheme of things. And so personally, I'd like to move the administrative motion.
We have a seconder. Any further questions? Don't see any. We'll call the question. All in favor of that motion? Any opposed? Dr. Federico, Roberts, and Holly. Which passes. Thank you. And so I think now is probably an appropriate time to recess and take a break and fill your coffee, and then we'll get back at 11 o'clock for the hospital board.
Okay, here we go. If I can get everybody back to their seat, please, we'll get started with the hospital district. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll call this meeting of the Okanagan-Similkameen Regional Hospital District to order at 11 a.m. and look for a motion to adopt the agenda as circulated. Move second. All in favor? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Some minutes to adopt that the April 16th, 2026 minutes of the Okanagan-Similkameen Regional Hospital District Board be adopted. Just vote yes.
We're on fair number 2.
I know, we had to get started.
We did. Is there mayor numbers? No. Not all the other things.
We need one more for quorum.
We need one more. We got 10.
Yeah, nobody's. We got people online.
Yeah, not considered online if there's no picture. There he is.
All right, we have a quorum now. Looking for a motion that the April 16th, 2026 minutes of the Okanagan-Similkameen Hospital District be adopted. Move second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And do we have our delegation? Yeah. I'm assuming they're coming in online or, yeah. While we're waiting, I'll just pass this over to the CAO and maybe just update the board why we're doing the 2021 financial statements in 2026.
That's a very good question. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say that. It's a nice question. So local governments by law have to have audited financial statements every year. The hospital districts don't. And it was chosen for my time that it was not a priority not by the boards, but just other things that came up. However, we've got a new CFO that don't like that. We don't have audited statements, and neither does the Municipal Finance Authority. So we're slowly catching up. We will be within this year. All of the audited financial statements will be coming to you. It gets faster and faster because it's the same auditor, and there's not that much work to do. So with that, we do have the auditor online now, and I will forward this back to the CFO for any comments.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. You saw 2020 a couple of months ago, so now you're seeing 2021, and we are working hard to get caught up. So we can now introduce Sinead Scanlon, partner with BDO LLP, and she can let us know how 2021 went.
Good morning, everyone. Can I just confirm that you can hear me and see me okay?
Yes, absolutely. You're coming through nice and clear. You have the floor.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sinead Scanlon. I'm a partner with BDO and here this morning to talk about the 2021 audited financial statements for the hospital district. As has already been mentioned, this is a catch-up period of making sure that we're in compliance with reporting requirements. And so a couple of months ago, a colleague of mine shared 2020. We're here now to talk about December 2021. In short order, we'll be back to talk about 2022 and 2023, 24, 25. And so having a management team that is able to prepare the financial statements in-house leads to a very efficient process. And had we not been doing the audit of the regional district for your full fiscal period, we would have been able to maybe get through a couple of these quicker. But of course, that's a priority, making sure that those were back to you on time. So now we're able to shift our focus very quickly back to the hospital district. So I have shared a report, and what I'll do right now is just go through a couple of the highlights for you. What I always like to make sure that I'm referencing is that it's a clean audit opinion that we're issuing for the hospital district's 2021 financial statements. What's included in this report, we talk about our responsibilities as your auditors. Those have all been met, including ensuring independence requirements are all met as part of the audit process, and that there was no instances of fraud impacting the hospital district for the 2021 fiscal. We talk about that in every report that we deliver because it's very important for us to reiterate that always. Materiality is set based on your results of each year that we examine. So $202,000 was the materiality. We started this audit in February, finishing it in May. We'll be able to move quickly, as I mentioned, into 2022. And there were no adjustments that we proposed as part of the audit process in the year. The status of the audit is that we have everything in hand pending final approval by the board today, and that there were no significant audit findings that we had to report, and all testing that was done without error. And so appreciation is always to Ms. Ernst, who prepares the financial statements now in-house, and being able to take our feedback from the last period and flow that through, which is why we're confident that we'll be back in short order to deliver the next round of audited financial statements for the hospital district. Thank you as always to Ms. McEwen's to make sure that we have everything organized and a proper structure in place to be able to report to you today. That concludes my report on the hospital district for 2021 audit, but happy to take any comments or any questions.
Thank you. I'll look around the board to see if there's any comments. Director Taylor?
Is there any limited duration for which an organization's auditor can be the auditor? And I guess where I'm going with this is, are we using up our time with you by getting these 5 years audits done?
Yeah, so I'll comment on that from my perspective, and then Mr. Zaffino, if you want to add anything. So typically for organizations in your realm, there's usually a 3 or a 5 year period at which you go back out to market to make sure that you issue an RFP. That's not mandatory for every organization, but it is best practice, and it is one that's followed by the regional district. So I believe that for the audit of the regional district, our December 2025 was the 5th of our 5 year proposal. So some clients will choose to do extensions for a 1 year or a 2 year. And so that's management's decisions along with the board. But I believe that we're coming to that end of that term. But for as long as we're engaged, we will continue to work on catching up the hospital district's audits as well. So Mr. Zaffino, Ms. Evans McEwen, if you had any other comments or sentiments on that.
Yes, for the RDOS, we are at RFP time to go again. For the hospital, I believe we just started again newly for the hospital, so we're back sort of reset. So we will use BDO to complete the next few, and then we'll be at RFP point again.
Director Holmes?
Just wondering for the future ones that are coming to us, could we do like several years in one meeting so it's not like Groundhog Day?
We can do that. It is definitely best practice. I see where you're coming from, especially if the results are as static as they are in the hospital district for 2021, which we expect there will be. So it's best practice to do them individually, but also this is just a bit of an unusual circumstance. So I can take that away and we can discuss with management to maybe bring the next maybe 2 or 3 years together for you as a board to approve.
Director Barkwell?
All the questions seem to come from this side of the room, but note 9 caught my eye, and I wondered why you have to have this reconciliation, why the budget isn't presented this according to the public sector accounting standard, necessitating this reconciliation that you have to wrap your mind around, and is that the current practice still? And is there a reason for it? Is it easier to follow if you do it that way, or that way?
Is that a question? Is that a reference to one of the documents that I've shared?
In the financial statements, note 9, there's a reconciliation from budget to the financial statements because the budget isn't prepared in the same manner, quite the same language as financial statements. So I wondered why we do the budgets that way. Instead.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll share my thought on it and then pass to management if they've got anything to supplement it. So that's a very standard disclosure that we have in public sector accounting standard statements. It's included in every single one because how every regional district municipality decides to issue their budget is in accordance with their guidelines, their internal controls and processes, and how we issue our financial statements is very strictly in accordance with PSAB accounting rules and Canadian auditing standards. And there can be a difference always between what we need to see in order to meet the public sector guidelines, but operationally what members like to see, what your constituents like to see from a budgeting perspective and how you report back to them. And so that gives some freedom and some room for each municipality, each regional district to be able to prepare their budgets in ways that work for them departmentally, as well as how they disclose those. So that note disclosure is in every single PSAB financial statement to just alert the readers that what they see maybe in coming from management and coming from the board from a budgeting point of view can't always be reconciled back to the audited financial statements because the audited financial statements have to follow a very specific reporting framework.
So it comes down to staff's preference on how it's presented for budget purposes, I guess?
And best practices and kind of refining over the years for what really what makes sense for you as a regional district and a board of directors to share as part of your budgeting process. Mr. Zaffino, if you have anything to add to that.
The way that you see the budget is more transparent. If we did it the PSAP way, it'd be very difficult even for the staff in here and the board to understand how it works. There's specific restrictions a PSAP requires in the statement. In the 3 local governments that I've worked for, all 3 had that same comment because I don't know any local government that would actually PSAP.
Not seeing any more hands up. We do have a motion that the audited financial statements of the Okanagan-Similkameen Regional Hospital District as of December 31st, 2021 be accepted, and further that all reported 2021 transactions be adopted as amendments to the 2021 financial plan. Moved. Second. There's no further discussion. I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. And I will look for a motion to adjourn. Moved. Second. All in favor? Thank you. We are all adjourned. The hospital district.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So we will then move back into committee of the whole. And we will move on to item D, which is to move into closed section. So in accordance with section 91I and 92B of the Community Charter, the board closed the meeting to the public on the basis of the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations. Would we see if somebody makes a motion to go into camera? Moved, seconded. All in favor? Thank you, and I will refer to our CAO.
Steve is here.
Thank you, Louis. Okay, motion to adjourn, seconded. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. I think I got a legal one.
We do have the Electoral Area Services Committee just after this, but we'll give a couple minutes for everybody to pack up and get out that isn't staying, and then we'll start. If the electoral area directors could come back to their seats, we'll get started.
We've got. There's a.
So I think the EA Council Committee should have Shay Lounges.
Should. All right. We do have a quorum here, so we will get started. Electoral Area Services Committee called to order. We've got a potential agenda in front of us. Looking for a motion to approve it. Move seconded. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. We've got the minutes from the May 7th. Looking for a motion to adopt those. Move seconded. Thank you. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. Community grant in AIDS for information, but I'll go to the CEO.
Thank you. So a few meetings back, the EA committee asked if we can start bringing the community grant and aid request to you so you can see what the asks are and compare and make a decision. So the purpose of this report is to present community grant and aid applications seeking funding from multiple areas for information sharing and coordination of grant funding. And I will pass it to Noel, the CFO, to give you some backup and what's next steps.
Go ahead, Noel.
As requested, this time we've got two applicants that are looking for funding from multiple areas. So this will just be for information and for your discussion, and then we will revert back to our normal procedure of emailing you, you know, if whatever you decide, we will email you and get confirmation back in the typical manner through email.
Okay. So we've got the report in front of us. We've read it. Is there anything anybody wanted to discuss or ask questions about? Director Fedrigo.
Thank you to the chair. So what I've kind of been doing the last few years, if it's not a direct area E nonprofit, I'll issue $500. And then if it's a direct area E nonprofit, I'll usually do about 1,000. So for me in this instance, I would be inclined to give about 500 to each of the groups. So yeah, that's where I stand on that.
Okay. Any further thoughts or discussion on it?
Well,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Director Gettins.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I appreciate that approach actually, and is having it consistent. I was in area F. I felt too that if it's something to do just specific to area F, then happy to talk and support. And then how did we do these larger, more regional ones, and just ensuring that, you know, like if you do give $500, then that $500 will go a lot further if I also do this. Like, you know what I mean? Rather than a whole bunch of little bit here and there. So that's, I appreciate knowing that you're doing that and having to kind of follow along. I think that was sort of the idea around it. There isn't, I do have a question for staff if that's okay.
Sure.
So grant and aid, they can, nonprofits can apply at any time of the year for grant. That's true? Yeah.
Staff?
We do actually list a deadline. I believe it's early July, because then we intend to pay out in August. But we do get requests all year long, typically earlier in the year, but we do get requests all year long. But officially, the July is the deadline. They know that if they apply after July, there may not be any funds left, but we do pass along all the applications to you.
Go ahead, Director Fedrigo.
Yes, thank you, through chair. And to that point, like if I know there's some funding left in there and I have a user group that like would need some funding for something that pops up, then I'll just be like, yeah, put in an application, and then I'll usually just send it to finance and like, yep, there's funding for this one. So for me, I'll accept them all year as long as, yeah, to Noel's point, as long as there's funding.
Okay. Director Taylor.
Yeah, I'm just curious about this one. It's applied to all areas, and I think it was declined as a regional grant because they had applied several times, well, from 2022 to 2025 and been funded. I guess I'm just, so what's the policy?
Go ahead, Noel.
The regional grant needs do have a limit on how many times they can apply in a period of time. The community grant needs don't have a limit. So as you can see, the Ha 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 Kids Fest we did give you a little bit of a history, so you can see how many times they've applied. So they've switched back and forth between regional and community. And as far as applying to all, we do get a number of organizations that do apply to all. Yeah, fairly common.
Okay. Director Roberts.
Yes, through the chair. Yeah, I tell people you can go ahead and send it out to everybody you think it affects. I still most likely may say no. Doesn't hurt to ask, you're not going to get it otherwise. So I get it why they do it, but I tend to keep things closer to home and then look at things. Well, get the regional grants, those ones that are more encompassing, because I usually see that as the premise. And then if I think I'm going to have some left over, then I'm more apt to further down the road make a decision to something not necessarily close to home, but is global, because it's I've got some different groups that I'm regularly calling ahead, but I'm also making sure that they're not more than 3 years in a row, kind of like they're unless it's a special circumstance.
Okay, good to know. Director Taylor.
So I'll just be frank here. I look at this application. If we're all going to fund it, I'll be happy to get in the pool with everybody else. But it seems to me we're just built into their annual profit and loss statement. And it's a superb event. It's terrific. Okay. I just wonder at what point do we as a regional district say that, events like this should be self-funded. Anyway.
Valid
So with
question. Go ahead, Director.
Like, I'm thinking about the ha. Well, I think we did as a regional district say no, because when it came forward. So then now, but this is grant made. So I think there's the two different parts of that, right? So that's, yeah. So the regional district said no, and now it's up to electoral areas if they want to continue. Yeah, well, I think, that's what the advice was probably. So I think it's great in these little events to do this. Yeah, they do need ongoing support. I'm happy with it. It's good.
Okay, Director Roberts, and then I think we'll move on to
Thank
the
you,
next
Chair.
one.
This is a question for the CFO. So I know things that have in Area G that have also become regular staples, and I kind of use that as a guideline, whether I can throw them into a service or make a service. Or is there a place for programs that we think as a whole are of great benefit and that the taxpayer would support? Are there services that are created for those kinds of, let's say, ongoing events, so that it's not because it doesn't make sense. We're funding it every year from this group, or it's the group again, but in a different format. So, is there something that would be a recommendation from staff if the board wanted to continue with that event?
Not sure, but let's hear.
Well, I do know, of course, we'd have to go through the service establishment bylaw and that process, but I would defer to Tracy or to the CAO as to whether we would put something together for an event like that. Would we put a service through for a kids event like that?
CAO?
If it's an ongoing expense, it's funded by the taxpayer. It's a service, and the service requires a service establishment bylaw. And to do that, you need a referendum. Tracy?
Alternative approval process, but some kind of elector.
There would definitely be required some sort of from the electors. However, in an event like this, to establish the service, we have no guarantee that this event will go on for ever. It's not our event, right? It's our technical service.
That's a concern. Director Federico.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So it could fall under economic development, and right now that service is only going to the Film Commission. And that wasn't an assent process or a service. So essentially something that could fall under either tourism or events could fall under that service establishment as long as we change the bylaw. Because I think that bylaw right now points just to film. So this could be looked at as a broader ECDEV with a line item under there that could fit as, granting out funding to community events. So I don't think we need to go down a full referendum for $5,000-$10,000 because there might be other groups that are going to fit under this. So we can look at that broader.
Ms. Batten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just, sorry, I'm trying to remember because I was just looking at that ACDEV bylaw with Mr. Just recently and Mr. Koch, I don't know if you remember, I believe the ECDEV was for the entire RD that everybody was participating in that. So it's all the municipalities and all the EAs. So maybe definitely a board decision as to whether or not we added them in. But in general, my recollection of the bylaw when we read it, it does not specifically say in the bylaw that it is only for the film. It speaks to a general economic development.
It does, but I recall when we brought that one in that there was the request that it actually had to go to each council too for approval. And it was a little more controversial than one would expect, actually, because a lot of the councils specifically wanted it for only that. That's why it's kind of worded the way it is in there. Director Roberts.
Yes, thank you. And the intent was not necessarily to tie it to name, but to have a placement for those types of things. And I bring up the example of part of the service bylaw we have for information, where we had a contract in the Carameus area G and B, which tied in at points for Pepperfest and a parade. Like there were 2-3 specific events that were actually tied to what was being organized and supported it in through that. So I was just trying to look at if there's similar guidance or ways to move forward in when we end up with these things that, yes, they may eventually end, but when they end, but that there's a place for them to be put outside strictly a grant aid or regional grant. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the next one is APC minutes from Area F. CAO, just for information, I believe.
It's for information only for the April 13th APC Area F. That's all.
Okay. Development cost charges, bylaw update. CAO, I'll go to you, and I see Chris coming up to speak to it. So.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to present options and seek their direction from the board with respect to development cost charges and capital expenditures. With the motion, you get to hear from me on this. The development cost charge bylaw and capital expenditure cost bylaw, repeal bylaw number 3113 and Okanagan Falls sanitary sewer development cost charge amendment bylaw 2486.03 be initiated, and that the EA Service Committee support the remaining local government housing initiatives funding of $216,667 be allocated to capacity modeling analysis of the Naramata water system, and that the EA Service Committee support funds to be directed to the Naramata water system 2026 phase of the capital and master plan model update project ready for the 2026 strategic priority list, and the EA Service Committee direct staff to prepare a budget amendment reflecting the allocation funding for consideration by the board. And I'm going to scroll down here. There is a PowerPoint presentation, and there is a PowerPoint presentation.
Let's hear the presentation first. Go ahead, Chris.
You wrote it. Somebody did.
I think I'll attribute that one down. So I do have a couple slides to run through, and then Lisa's also going to help me with any questions of transport, structure, funding. So I'll just start with some quick background. So as the board may be aware, again, as usual with development, so it's the Local Government Act that sets out the authority for the board to impose development charges in relation to new subdivisions and construction. And these DCCs that we can collect to subdivision and building permit stage can be used to assist in capital costs for providing sewage, water, which are services that we use them for, electoral areas. And so in applying a DCC bylaw and the charges that are related to that, there's some parameters that are set out in the legislation, and those charges are supposed to be based on, as you can see here, future land use and development patterns, potential phasing of the works and services. The board has to consider whether the charges that they're applying for these bylaws are also excessive, and that's to the point of what related to their development. So just some basic considerations around the charge. I'll touch on CECs quickly because a CEC is not something that the regional district board has to implement. It's an improvement district, but of course, because over time we've acquired, or sorry, the regional district has acquired various water services. Some of those services had CEC bylaws before, then inherits and administers going forward. So that's why this is a DCC and CEC. The CECs are almost identical to DCCs, but of course the improvement districts, their mechanisms or triggers for collecting are slightly different. Of course, they don't issue building permits. We do, so they use connections to the service of the trigger point for collecting them. And I've got I do have an example just showing how CECs and DCCs work, but this is a really quick list. I think there's about 9 different bylaws listed on here. So it just kind of gives you a sense of where geographically these bylaws exist at the moment, and then also the age of some of them based on the adoption date, with the oldest going back to the mid-1970s, which is a long time ago. So yeah, so here's the example. So I chose this particular graphic just to illustrate for the board how the acquisition of the Miramata Irrigation District back in the late 90s resulted in the C bylaw and had implemented being inherited by the RD. And that would be the orange, yellow, green areas. Of course, the board can't do CCs, so to capture new development as it went up the hillside, the board adopted a DCC bylaw. The rates are the same in Miramata CCs and DCCs. You can see here how it's kind of a mishmash of bylaws trying to capture the same charges to the water system. And so part of the review was actually intended to try to address this and consolidate the bylaws into something, but we ran into some issues with that, which I'll touch on in some slides. So as a CAO indicated in his introduction to this item, as part of the small-scale multi-unit housing rolled out by the province in 2023, there was funding out across the province, and the regional district's out was $232,000. The first part of that was used to help with the housing needs assessment that was completed in 2025, and then the remainder has been allocated by the board as of January last year to the DCC bylaw review. So I kind of touched on this with this slide showing different ages of the bylaws, but yeah, we do have a situation where most of our bylaws are over the age of 20. The exceptions being UK Falls, water, and sewer, those are the ones that have been implemented within the last 20 years. And just as a rule of thumb, it is considered good practice to review the DCCs every 5 years, just to make sure that they're capturing the capital plan and staying up to speed with inflation or other cost considerations that would impact your ability to complete the projects that have been identified through the bylaw. And the last top point here is just speaking to I think one of the logistical issues we ran into with this particular project. Provincial funding that was made available all recently local government created a surge in demand for what a relatively small pool of specialized consulting firms who help local governments with BCC reviews. So we had initially anticipated being much further along the project than we are today. And a lot of the delay was related to finding a firm that was able to assist us, and then of course them being able to fit us in with the other local governments they were assisting with various projects related to this funding. So that's why we're where we are today. Now this particular dot point, okay, so the first one we just touched on. The other point I wanted to make too, and I think this speaks to why we're proposing to repeal most of the bylaws except for OK Falls. There has been a significant inflation since 2020, and I've used the reference for Soyuz here. So Soyuz, the DCC bylaw currently was, I believe, adopted in 2016. So within the last 10 years, and keeping in mind that most of the regional districts are 30 to 40 or 50 years old. So Soyuz in updating their DCC, looking at an increase of 200 to 385%. Now I know sometimes this is comparing apples to oranges, and the issues that confront Soyuz are the issues that confront Miramata or Falls some of the other locations, but it does give a sense, and I think I've seen headlines in your DCs. You're potentially looking at significant increases bylaws today. And so this was one of the considerations in relation to OK Falls, because of the delays in obtaining a consulting firm, where that's put us today in 2026, how far off we are from plus potential significant increases in rates that could be looked at by the board. There's a concern that maybe this was something more suitably left to the OK Falls Council after it's incorporated to decide if we want to go forward. Looks like I just spoke to my next slide here, so I'll just quickly scroll through this one. Actually, no, there is one point I wanted to get to in relation to that concern about OK Falls Council Corporation making decisions on DCCs. At the moment, if OK Falls was to be included or retained in the project, the review would only be looking at their water and sewer rates. Of course, after incorporation, there's issues about what's going to be in the letters of timing and whatnot. But at some future point, the municipality will be responsible for stormwater drainage, roads and parks, and those are also DCC considerations. So it may be that even if they were included in the review project, shortly thereafter in incorporation, they would potentially be looking at to do it again if they wanted to start charging for these additional infrastructure considerations that they've been responsible for. As it relates to Naramata, which is the other main area where DCCs and CECs are collected and why we're recommending that it be repealed, I just want to the direction to remove Naramata as a rural growth area is a consideration here as well. The identified upgrades to the water system that we're aware of to date are generally, I'm not sure if how you would describe it, just operational, ongoing maintenance and keeping, not upgrades that are related specifically to growth. And then going forward, in the absence of a community sewer system, which is the feedback we've been getting from residents in that area for a few years now, the growth will be limited. So that would, I need to repeat words here, but limit the ability to collect DCCs to help fund improvements from the water system. So taking all that into consideration, staff feels that there may be other better ways to support the water system rather than DCCs. So the proposal that's before you today, as the CEO indicated in his introduction, that all of the current DCC and CEC bylaws, with the exception of being repealed. And I guess a corollary to this is that any decision on the OK Falls bylaw council, the funding be reassigned to the Naramata water system. And that once the bylaws are repealed, there'll still be the reserve funds with the monies that have been collected in the past. And I believe there's figures included report before you, the amount in each one, that these be retained and spent over time in support of the applicable water system. I apologize for all the text here. I think this is what the CAO was reading off at the beginning of the presentation. I won't go into it again, but this is the recommendation. There are alternatives available to the board, one of which is the status quo, which would basically be seeing the project continue as proposed. So ECCs, Cs for Naramata and OK Falls, repealing some of the smaller water system ones. And I'm just trying to see what the second alternative here is saying. I guess this would be to abandon the projects, move it from the list. So that's another option that's available to I have my question slide, but I'm quickly going to jump back to the recommendation slide, and we are happy to take any questions. So, Director.
Okay, Director Federico, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. So then for Naramata, if we remove the DCCs, can we get funding or support? So regardless of being a growth area or not being a growth area, the growth boundaries that we've put in do limit large scale development from taking place. And even if that was, it's going to be a long time before any of that's even remotely considered. So anything that would go in from a growth perspective is likely going to be smaller. However, if they're putting that in, there still needs to be some way of gathering some funding for our system. So thoughts on that?
Go ahead,
Thank
staff.
you. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, that is something that we are looking at right now. It'll end up being part of a connection charge when people want to increase their usage or a vacant lot that needs a new connection.
Director Roberts.
Just trying to wrap my brain around, what's wrong with, what you've been doing, like for instance, carrying on. It will be then, because if you stop something and then you need to restart the process, it becomes more challenging. Why would we just carry on and have that taken care of? Sure, it may not happen in 2025, but it'll definitely happen by 2026. Just from my own understanding, I know I don't really have that flesh in the game.
Okay, staff, is there a response to that?
I think. You want just to clarify, Chair, that's why we want to stop doing the DCC project right now? Is that what you are, or just keep going with it? Is that what you were asking?
I'm kind of read through and listening. I still don't really get what was so wrong with just carrying on with what you were doing, status quo, as it were. Because that would complete a lot of these things in the long run, right?
Right.
I'm just hesitant of what, you initiate something and then you stop it, and then chances of initiating it again, or what the cause and effects are.
Right. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it has to do with the growth areas. I could leave that one for Chris to answer better.
Well, I'll take a stab at it and you can tell me if I answered your questions or not. But like when I look at the bylaws that we have currently, I see 3 different types, right? So we have the OK Falls bylaws. And from our perspective, and seen in studies, and the fact that they're incorporating and maybe additional DCCs that they want to charge. Rather than proceed now with that project, we leave it for future falls council. In relation to Naramata, we're being directed to the issues with that water system are seen to be unrelated to growth. It's questionable ability for growth going forward to fund that system. So in that case, looking at alternatives rather than DCCs. And then the third one are all these really minor ones that date back decades. And I think most of those reserve funds are actually not even sure to what extent there's growth. Those bylaws probably serve no purpose anymore. I'm not even sure what the basis charges were. And if it's limited growth, then say West Bench or again, the DCC may not be the best like chart forward. So looking at their funds. All that being said, though, I think with the water system we're proposing, when that's done, and if there's other changes in the future, I mean, there's nothing to implement or enacting a DCC for a community. And this particular water modeling help with any future DCC charge establishment.
That's correct, yeah, 'cause it'll help us work towards finishing our master plan for the system itself and laying out the costs. It's 20+ years.
Okay, CAO.
From my experience, DCCs, as Lisa stated, you have a 20-year capital plan, and the objective of the DCCs is to fund that 20 years. Our bylaws are outdated. I don't see us following any capital infrastructure plan that would have, the province would have had to authorize this. Someone could challenge us just because we got a DCC and we're not doing the capital work. So this is just a correction that needs to be done. Chris?
Well, I agree with that.
Okay. Director Federico.
I'll move the staff administrative recommendation because, yeah, I mean, as you saw in the photo there, our water system is rather large. And so being able to go through this water modeling and see what else we can do is quite important for our system. So I'll move this.
Move. Second. Okay. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Director Taylor.
Yeah, I can see what Naramata would, I mean, you're going to benefit from this. So I get that. But I just personally don't see what's wrong with leaving the DCCs in place. So
That's the stay with the status quo, you mean? That's a similar question that Director Roberts just had. CAO?
And again, I repeat, the DCC bylaw went to the board and then ultimately went to the province. It would have a list of all the projects that were supposed to be done. Based on that, the province would authorize the cost. The DCCs would fund those projects. We're not there yet. These, first of all, the DCCs are so outdated. Even if we do the projects, we couldn't afford it. So by doing this, we're going to have a correction. The new Okanagan Falls Municipal Council will definitely have to do an immediate 20-year plan. And I'm sure that we have some already, but they're going to have to make it 20 years and then do it's called a major DCCs where the province has to okay it. We're so far in updating our DCCs, we would only even qualify for a minor DCC, which doesn't require province's help.
Follow up, go ahead.
So then how do we fund the reserves that we want to get in place? How do we fund them if we don't have DCCs?
Staff.
That's what we're looking at the connection charge for. And that connection charge will be determined based on the needs of the system, but not based on growth, based on what actually needs to be replaced and maintained to properly operate it. A lot of the pipes and the water systems are old. They need replacing, but it's not to do with development. It's to do with just age. So that's what the connection charge will go towards. It won't just be specific for development, which is what the DCFs are.
So what I'm hearing is the DCCs were really not intended to be for maintenance purposes. They were for new construction. And so it's a different use of those funds. Director Federico.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So on that point, right now, like I said, major lands that would have large scale development not in the cards. Where our growth boundaries is mostly hillside, and right now there's a strong no build preference up there. So anything that's coming through that's going to be a DCC will be small connections to this current system. It wouldn't be anything that's large scale. So I appreciate having DCCs as a way to pay for those, but just looking at the development of the community right now, they're almost kind of a moot point because it's all small, like subdivisions, maybe one house here or there. And it's not going to give a huge influx of funding to help with the system.
Okay, Director Roberts.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So how I saw things, because Lyle is super, like I don't have to worry about growth. What growth has happened wasn't probably really supposed to happen. It's in the backyards. So when we look at our water system and all the good work that has been done so far, I was seeing how this could affect these bigger situations. But what would be like the outcome in regards to Olalla? We've had a pretty strategic plan moving forward. We've put a lot into it. I looked at just the growing the community works fund. It's been like over $1 million in investment. So, and I have under the understanding we do have reserves. And are we already set because we've just recently done a change in fee? Does that go in regards to building reserves? I don't really see us losing anything from these 1976 CECs, that kind of thing. Am I correct in that assumption?
Staff?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the Olalla DCCs, I don't know when the last time that was ever actually collected. Yeah, as part of our budget, we do have a certain allocation to our capital plan, to our capital reserves. And that's what accumulates, and that's what we do our various projects with, as well as the community works, the gas tax that has been applied for a lot of the upgrades. There is more work to be done in Olalla. There will be a capital charge determined. It'll likely be a different charge for every system because they all have different needs. But essentially, we'll likely just keep collecting through the user fees, the annual reserves. And the new charge will only apply for people maybe building a new house. Just to clarify as well, the DCC monies that we collect in a reserve can only be used on upgrading the infrastructure because of development. Like you can upsize pumps because the demand is higher. The wastewater treatment plant, we used DCC fees to put in a second bank of ultraviolet disinfection because of the increased end use. So they're very specific projects that we could use them for as well. So.
Okay. We do have a motion. Oh, go ahead, Director Taylor, and then I call in the question.
So it's going to take roughly some $200,000 to do capital and master plan and model update for their. We're going to have to spend something similar for each of these other systems in order to figure out what we're going to charge for a connection.
Staff?
It's probably more than what we need to fully do the whole modeling and master plan. But yeah, we've got about half the systems done with their master plans. Most of them, depending on, but Naramata's, because it's such a large system and there's a lot of complexity with the different pressure zones, the different, just the different looping and the upgrade projects that we have to look at. But yeah, whatever's not spent on Naramata, we would come back to the board and ask for reallocate, likely to one of the other systems.
Okay, makes sense. I'll call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next one is Okanagan Valley OCP bylaw review schedule. CAO.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek direction from the board in relation to the scheduling for enacting the Okanagan Official Community Plan bylaw for electoral areas A, C, D, E, and F, with the recommended motion being that the Okanagan Valley Official Community Plan bylaw 3140 proceed to the Electoral Area Service Committee for consideration against the board's OCP bylaw preparation consulting policy 2008 and land use bylaw transition policy 2016, and that the official community plan bylaw and zoning bylaw be initiated on the part of the area D that is to be incorporated as a new district municipality of Okanagan Falls, and an amendment to the Okanagan Valley zoning bylaw 2800 2022 be initiated to remove that part of electoral D that is to be incorporated as the new district municipality of Okanagan Falls. Staff is here with the presentation and able to answer questions.
Go ahead, Chris.
Mouthful, please. I
Thanks
should
a lot.
apologize for patience, but yes, so that's it in a nutshell. And I've just got a few slides. I've tried to slim it down a little bit because I know the board has seen the full plans already. So yes, we are basically just seeking directions. We had originally, and I apologize, a future slide here, but we had come to the board previously seeking direction on doing these together, but we logistical issues, so the options we're presenting to you. So really quick background, and as the board is aware, the RDOS amendment has been going on for a number of years now and started in 2020. Since OCP, we received the resolution, the recommendation, direction from the board to initiate that in 2022. Both of these projects did suffer delays related to provincial changes, small-scale multi-unit housing, and also the Introduction to Short-Term Accommodation Act, which kept staff busy throughout 2024 and 2025. But as the board is aware, since around August or September of 2025, we have been able to recommence the RGS and single OCP, and we have been to a number of times. This recent one in relation to the OCP project was in February. We did receive direction to initiate that as part of the ongoing RGS review. And the reason why we suggested that to the board is because statutory requirements for community engagement are very similar for those projects. This is a summary very quickly, obviously, but engaging citizens, seeking feedback from other local governments, First Nations, education districts, as well as any applicable provincial agencies. And so in giving us that direction to proceed with that initial consultation in conjunction with the RGS review, the board had also asked to elect to be removed from the single bylaw. So prior to engagement, we did have to redraft the single OCP to remove the content specific to areas within RDI, a couple of other provisions as well. Another consideration, again, because of where we're at this project and the unanticipated delays, primarily in relation to those provincial initiatives in 2024 and 2025, is that we are closing in on the OK Falls incorporation. And as the board's aware, I think every department has been touched by this particular project. It's required to changes, updates, etc. required. So for planning, obviously, the main one for us, land use bylaws, efficient plans, and zoning bylaw. And so, as in consideration, given that we were given direction to remove Area I, consideration was okay, we'll remove OK Falls. We think there is a benefit to doing that prior to October 2026, and basically having the bylaw separated and in place when it happens. Suggesting it be considered a gift to the municipality to have a dedicated zoning bylaw, and also addresses our needs to update the Okanagan zoning bylaw for the OCP to advise the removal of OK Falls. And then an additional consideration as we were considering those other options was that we were running into logistical challenges with the RGS amendments, primarily in relation to communication with the public, not just rural areas, because this is a multi-party bylaw. We have member municipality participation as well. So getting mail outs to residents in the municipalities, establishing dates for the PIMs and the agencies that have requested. Another consideration where the legislation actually diverges between an OCP and RGS is that the RGS has a 60-day acceptance affected local municipalities. And so when we start with calculations for when these bylaws could come forward, it became clear to us that there's going to be potential delays or inability to get the RGS up before the local government elections. Those same restrictions apply to the single OCP. The other point I want to make for the board too, to not just Area Falls RGS, but there was also seen to be efficiency considering other projects as part of the single OCP as well. I touched on OK Falls incorporation, but the second one for P area review, which we've received direction from the board to 2025 undertake. So I was looking at the forming character DPs, SDP, protection of farming, hillside DP, etc. That's been wrapped up into the single OCP. So there is additional benefit potentially to that OCP project now, given the logistical challenges with the RGS. So I'll quickly move into the options here that we've outlined in the report for you. Option one would be to now separate out OCP and proceed separately from the RGS amendment. The second option would be that it is basically deferred and it proceeds with the RGS as it's forward for board consideration. Third option. And then fourth option is kind of a variation you could argue on the first three, whereas whatever decisions made in relation to the single OCP direction is provided to the board, which is potentially OK Falls land use bylaws, either before or after incorporation. And I'll just quickly run through each of these options a little bit more in depth, but I'll do this time as fast as I can. So option one would, we feel, still allow for the single OCP to be completed during the current term. The benefits that we see in relation to the DP area, Falls incorporation, and that in future, however, this board or the future board resolves the RGS amendment, that the OCP can be able to reflect that ensure consistency, which is a legislative requirement. Option two is that the OCP is deferred and proceeds in conjunction with the RGS amendment, which I've indicated we're anticipating at this point, probably carrying over into the next term. If this direction is provided, staff would go back and look at the projects on the strategic list for 2026 and probably come forward with some options for them to consider and pursue next. However, this option would impact the DP area review, but the flip side is it might allow for rental area H to happen a little bit sooner. Sorry, area H OCP review to happen a little bit sooner. Option three, the single OCP is abandoned. Anticipating that this would not impact the RGS amendment unless by the board. Put an asterisk here in the second document, just simply highlighting that there is a legislative requirement for OCPs to be consistent with the RGS. So even if the single OCP is abandoned, the OCPs would still have to be brought into compliance with the updated RGS point. We would anticipate these projects, if this is the option the board chooses, not being completed until next term, and then we would likely have to come back and seek direction on other projects to be pursued. And option 4 is basically, and I won't go into too much detail here, but just seeking direction from the board on how it may wish or wish not to deal with OK Falls Corporation. And I know the board is aware that we were doing the consultation for the OCP already, discussion about this. I don't want to go into too much detail here because if we do receive direction to come back to the next committee, this is material that we're presenting to you, but I just want to highlight that we did receive on the OCP when we were up for consultation in March and April. Based on the comments that the board will likely or could consider in the future meeting, I just wanted to highlight that there's an option for additional consultation to occur. The board could ask for meetings, additional surveys, etc. The slide is just presenting some feedback that we did receive, and I think as I indicated in the last meeting, the overwhelming majority of it came from elected me. And again, I appreciate this is just a quick short summary. A majority of the comments that we received seem to relate to issues that were addressed by the board during the CP review in 2024. So again, just a really quick summary, top 3, growth management within the community, policy statements around community sewer, and concerns around hillside. So this is the administrative recommendations before you. The CIO started the presentation with his introduction. There are alternative options, and I apologize for text size. There's a lot to consider here. I'm on my question slide. The last presentation, just a couple, and happy to answer any questions that you have.
Director Strigo, start with you.
Yes, thank you to the chair. I don't think anyone's surprised. So given the vast majority of respondents came from my area and without seeing them, I right now am not comfortable with Area E staying in the OCP moving forward. The responses that I've been CC'd on are all that they don't want to be a part of this. So in consideration of that, I'd like Area E to be removed from it at this point going forward. I also have frustration that there was asked before the feedback deadline to be physically in the community, and that didn't happen. So from my perspective, there was a missed opportunity to have wholesome discussion with the community on what this means and where we could go with it. So yeah, so right now, depending on how this goes, whatever motion, if it's not to just completely rescind it, then others want to stay in it. Area E, I would like to be removed. We did just do ours, so we can wait to see how it goes, and then next time it comes around to update it, we can then make a decision whether we want to join or not join. But at this point in time, I'd like to remove Area E from any further comment on it or being included.
Okay. Anybody have any comments or direction? I think we should go here. Well, this is committee, so everybody gets to vote in committee. But when it's planning, which is the service, it would be all electoral areas still voting on at the board table. Director Gattens, start.
Thanks. I'm just wondering if E's out and I's out and potentially half a D is out, and then we don't have OCP. I'm just wondering if this should just be paused for now and bring back later when there's more consultation, or we, and we've got more direction from area, not direction, but Area D is further along.
It's an option. I think we do need to do something with Area D either way, but Director Taylor, you want to?
To clarify, I think Area D is in. And getting the plan done for both Area D remainder and OK Falls.
If we continue
If we
with
continue.
this staff recommendation.
Yeah. So I think, which is right, Director Getz was suggesting part of Area D wasn't going to be included already. And I just want to clarify that I don't think that's actually the case.
Okay. Is that correct, Chris?
I might ask for clarification on the question, but before I do, I just wanted to clarify for the board what this recommendation is before you go. It would give staff, if I'm understanding the question, direction on OK Falls. And it would simply, we're not asking to initiate the bylaw other than just to the next committee meeting so we can present to all the community input, and at that time this can still be made. But it would allow us to show you everything that we received during the feedback period and to request that additional consultation. So I'm not, sorry, so returning to the original question, I'm not sure if that addresses it, but OK Falls, the remainder of OK Falls would still be within the single key as currently structured. Just the proposed boundaries of the municipality would be put into its own.
Yeah. Okay. Director Federico?
Thank you, the chair. So I'm frustrated that that didn't come first because it's hard to make a decision like this without seeing the feedback. So you're asking us to make a decision and then go, oh, wait, we're going to come back to you with what that feedback was. So it's hard on this side to make a decision. Like the feedback I've been getting from all my residents, or most of those that have CC'd me, is that they want out of this. They don't want this to continue. So if there was positive in there that wanted us to stay, then that's information that, if provided at this point in time, would have been helpful. Because right now, the feeling and from what I've seen is Area E wants out. So I don't know. I don't even really know how to go on this because my stance right now is out. Like, even if you came to another board with the rest of the feedback right now, to me, it doesn't matter, right? Like, I needed to see that today to help make this informed decision, because you're asking us even in here just to abandon what's being done and just to carry on. So I don't know. I'm frustrated with this, and I almost just really want this conversation to just not carry on, but I don't think it's fair to just completely end the conversation on it either. So this is where I'm at right now.
Okay. CAO?
As Chris stated, this is just the first part. This affects the regional district as a whole. That's why you're all voting on it. But with the next meeting, when it goes to the board, that's where you can see the detail, and that's when you can opt out. And you would have all the information that you need. This isn't asking you to actually make a commitment to opt in at this point.
Go ahead, Director Federico.
Thank you. So then it going forward, it's going to the full board. It's coming back to EA committee for conversation. Because if you're going to do all this work already to remove Area D, then I'll opt out now. So then you can just remove Area E and then it's less work. Because if you do Area D now and then you come back and then I say I want out, you have more work to do. So it kind of does impact a decision right now, because that depends on your workload and what needs to be done and who's in and who's out.
Okay, is there a comment on that? Staff?
Okay. Sorry, I'm struggling here because I'm just trying to, I guess whenever we come to the board, there's always the potential for work to be directed at us, and we're always ready for that. So we know it's a possibility with anything that we bring forward. And in this particular case, I mean, yes, we have done the work in relation to OK Falls. We've done the work in relation to removing Area I. We've done the work in relation to how the draft bylaw might look in relation to the RGS. This is currently written. We've done the work as to how the RGS might look in the future if it's amended as proposed. So we've kind of, I don't want to use the word game this. We've explored the different options and how this project can look going forward under different scenarios. A majority of that work is done. Yes, we haven't done one in a scenario where Area E is removed. Given the work that we just did to remove Area I, it's not a substantial amount of work.
Okay, Director Monteith, I see a hand from you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I guess this is a question for Jim. When an electoral area director is asking for consultation, I hear Director Verdugo's frustration because consultation is important. And if we don't want directors messing in the weeds and getting feedback from the community, but yet when we ask for feedback or consultation to happen in our communities, like what is the right process is what I'm looking for. Because I know that there's other projects that are coming up that I'm going to be looking for the same thing. So I just want to make sure that I'm on the right page of knowing the process.
So at this stage, from what I understand, we have done consultation. I'll ask Chris to say how much. After that's done and the department's ready, they should be meeting with the director first, and then get it back to the committee and then board. Chris, can you just describe what you've done for consultation?
Sorry, I don't have it at my fingertips, but it is in the report and it lays out what we've done in relation to the OCP. And I guess the gist of what we're asking you today is that the last time we were before you was in order to do consultation for the OCP in conjunction with the RGS. But in the interim, we've identified challenges logistically with getting the RGS amendment done this term. So we thought we'd come back to you and ask for direction because we could proceed as directed in February, in which case these are be done this year, this term, sorry. Or if there's a desire to see the single OCP proceed, because it's a different legislative requirement for consultation, we think we can get that done before the election. I need that direction. If you're agreeable to splitting it up, I'll come back to committee and show you what we've done for the OCP. As part of that, looking at it in the context of OCP review policy, we're certainly open to taking additional direction from the board on additional consultation, whether that's EPCs, public information meetings, more feedback periods, surveys, like whatever it is that you desire, we can probably accommodate. Obviously, we give you feedback on how that might impact completing it before the election, but it's certainly here to take direction. So,
okay, Director Strico.
Thank you. Do I need a motion to remove area E? And we need more on this. Like there needs to be more consultation, like physically on the OCP. That's going to impact the RGS and it's going to impact our liquid waste management plan. And I know that there's discussion that liquid waste management plan isn't important, but it is. It impacts these two documents, and our community needs more time and more consultation on piecing that all together and how it's going to work in uniformity together. They're all important. They all inform each other. So at this point in time, because our OCP for Area E is so new, I think we have a bit of time to see how a valley-wide one goes. And then at the time that we need to update ours, can make the decision whether we want to opt in to the regional one, because yeah. So I don't know if I need a motion to opt out, but I'll put that on the floor if I need to.
Okay, staff, go ahead, Chris.
Well, if I can just clarify, so if I'm understanding the direction from the board at this point, if Area E is removed from the project, we wouldn't do any more consultation with your community, we'd be out of it, right? So, but if the desire is that we do additional consultation as part of this, then that would be going to committee and understanding from the board if there's a desire for that additional consultation to happen.
Go ahead.
I'll follow to that then. Yeah. So because you're going to be doing stuff with RGS, I won't take that off the table right now because you will be going out for consultation. So once we figure out RGS stuff, then we can come back to figure out OCP, or we can go into consultation at the time that our OCP needs to be either updated in the next like 3 to 5 years. And then at that point in time, there can be public consultation. You can see how the Okanagan Valley regional wide one is going. And then at that point in time, the community can make a decision whether they would like to maintain their own or they would like to join this valley-wide one. But for the moment, all OCP conversation can cease with the community because we'll remove ourselves from this. RGS communication continues and liquid waste management consultation continues. Those two documents are important, which will inform your valley-wide OCP. So no OCP, RGS, yes. Liquid waste management, yes.
Okay, we haven't got a direction on the overall OCP yet, but CAO?
Well, to follow the director's suggestion, then there be a fourth and that electoral area E be removed from the Okanagan Valley OCP bylaw.
So this motion with
that, yes,
addition.
yes.
Okay, that's a possibility if someone is willing to move that. Moving it, is there a seconder for it? Seconded, it's on the floor. Go ahead, Director Taylor.
So I just want to clarify.
Well, this recommendation is that it's going to proceed back to this committee with the consultation results. Is that first? Or is it going to the board first?
No. Sorry, through the chair. So no, it would come back to committee. And if I could take an opportunity to maybe seek additional clarification, like based on what I'm hearing, when we come back with that, all the representations from Area E would be removed because Area E is no longer part of the. So instead of 132 representations, you'll be looking at.
Yeah, significantly less, yes. Or whatever it was from Area E. That's correct. Okay, well, we do have the motion on the floor. That leaves then just A, D, and F as C. So, okay, I was just thinking it's starting to get pretty small to be an Okanagan Valley official community plan, but it's still valid. Okay. Thoughts, Director Taylor?
I'm just wondering if the results are going to be visible so that if you find out that the results are 50-50 for or against in Area E, you could choose to go back in again. Would that be a decision that you would be able to make next time, or is that like triple work for staff? In which case, yeah. I'm just wondering when Area E would actually see results of that feedback.
Staff? CAO.
So because if the motion passes, I would suggest that rather this coming back to the EA committee that we have a meeting with the director and she can see them on.
Yeah, that might be appropriate. I just want to check and make sure that's not a new hand from Director Monteith, or is that a new one? Director Monteith, okay, you're okay. And I'll go to Director Yattens.
Thanks. I think we were trying to go down this path. It was meant to be easier, and we were able to renew our OCPs in the time of every 10 years. Like there was a reason we were going down, and I think it is that purpose is getting a bit diluted. I know that there wasn't much feedback that was submitted, I think, from Area F, but we also don't have the complexities of other areas as well. So that it's a bit of a different conversation for me because we don't have development and a business and these kind of things. But I think like I want to see the feedback from Area E because maybe there's something there that will trigger something for me to think more closely about. I don't think we should ask for citizen input and then not present it to the board because they're assuming that's why they're putting this input in there. And so I'm just sort of struggling with this, like it doesn't, the intention I feel like is getting lost of why we were trying to do this, which is if you've got Area E's got things that need to happen ahead of time, then maybe we should do that and just slow it down and get that done. Like I'm not sure what the benefit is that we're getting out of this if we're getting this delayed. I don't think this is a time saver from what I can see. Like it's getting more money for that. I mean, like I said, the Area F is not as complicated because it's got its own limitations, but I think the big idea is kind of getting lost.
Yeah. Director Federico.
Yeah, and that's why it would have been nice to have seen representation today once this is brought back, because then now we're keep coming back to it, and it's like, oh, it'll come next time, but having it now would have been helpful to do that, to be able to see if we're going to have one conversation about it. We do have two other big documents in the Armada that will inform this one because, as much as the regional growth strategy will, right? Because everything flows down from there. Liquid waste management plan will have an impact in there on potentially how the other two kind of flow. So we do still have opportunity for public engagement on those that then would inform where we go. We did just do an OCP. It's pretty fresh, so we don't need to tackle this one for a little while. So there's time to put funding in reserves, put a way to get it done. And then at that point in time, when we need to, we can reopen the discussion on whether they join the valley-wide one or they continue on with their own. Like, we're not completely shutting down that conversation in the future to join, but we have 2 other guiding documents that will help to inform some of those decisions as we get closer. So I appreciate that it's hard to make a decision without the feedback, because I'm in the same boat at the moment because I didn't receive all of it. However, the stuff that I've seen coming in discussion with many in the community who've stopped me, who've seen me, have said that we just did one. They're like, why are we opening this up? We literally just did one, and they don't want to be a part of it. So for now, that's where I'm making those decisions based off, because we don't have all of it. So I have, and I appreciate that it wasn't shared with the whole board. So you're at a disadvantage because you don't have that. But representation that I'm hearing is they want out for now.
Okay, well, we do have the motion on the floor. Points from all sides here. I'm going to call the question on the motion. That motion plus the removal of Area E. Okay, call the question. All in favor? All right, any opposed? That motion carries. Vacation rental temporary use permit policy, CAO.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to seek direction from the committee in relation to the board vacation rental temporary use policy, with the staff recommendation being that the electoral area service committee recommend that the board of directors rescind the vacation rental temporary use policy. Staff is here to answer questions, and I see that there's also a PowerPoint.
Okay, over to staff.
Okay, as mentioned by the CAO, this item relates to the board's vacation rental temporary use permit policy, and this was previously in front of committee back in February and in front of the board in March. And I thought I would just lead the presentation with a very brief statutory overview, just to help frame the discussion. So as the board's aware, under Section 492 of the Local Government Act, the Temporary Use Permit Authority allows the board to designate areas for temporary uses and specify conditions for the issuance of temporary use permits. And then importantly, Section 497 sets out a statutory limitation, a maximum of 3 years for those permits that are issued under that authority. And how this relates to the board's vacation rental temporary use permit policy, as the board's aware, this relates to the previous approach to issuing temporary use permits for vacation rental uses. This approach was replaced by the board in October of last year with the new short-term rental approach, following along with the province's new legislation related to short-term rentals. And so this old policy supported the board's approach to issuing vacation rental TUPs for one season. So 1 year, 12 months, up to a maximum of 18 months, just so that property owners would have the benefit of operating for a full season, essentially to act as a pilot project to see if the use was compatible in the area and to then vet that use when it comes up for renewal. The intent of this was to address concerns in the community around the time. So this was 2014, related to bad operators. And essentially it would allow the board to simply not renew those permits if there were complaints or concerns raised by nearby neighbors. So as mentioned, the issue just with this policy is that it relates to a historic approach to regulating this use that is now being replaced. The approaches that have been applied relate to the principal residence requirement for those areas that opted in, or the new short-term rental permit for those areas that adopted that approach. And so when this was discussed back in February by the committee did indicate a preference for the short-term rental permits to be issued for a maximum of 3 years, as allowed for by the Local Government Act. And for that reason, there was a recommendation to rescind the vacation rental TUP policy, just seeing that having a policy refer to a season was no longer necessary. At that committee, staff did bring an alternative recommendation. So just keeping this here for continuity, the committee previously decided not to implement this approach, but just as an alternative, issuing those permits for a 12-month period to align with business license issuance annually is also an option available to the board. So in light of that previous discussion back in February, the administrative recommendation is simply that the vacation rental temporary use permit policy be rescinded. But there are other alternatives. As mentioned, that alternative could include the staff policy recommendation just discussed on my previous slide, or also maintaining the status quo. That's the end of my PowerPoint. I'm happy to take your questions. Go back to the administrative recommendation.
Okay, any questions or discussion on this? Director Federico.
Thank you, through the chair. So I wanted to keep this on here just until we could navigate where short-term rentals are kind of going in Naramata because of the vacant ones and the ones that are big, and then understanding the difference between tourist accommodation and short-term rental. So I have a bit of clarity, and then my director's motion will speak to it a bit more. So I'm comfortable rescinding this policy because we have our current short-term rental policy. So I'll move the administrative recommendation.
Okay, moved and seconded. It's on the floor. Any discussion? Not seeing any hands. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next one, director's motion. Director Federico's the first one up.
Yes. One.
Nope. Did I miss one?
H.
Ah, okay. Short-term rental accommodation program fee review, CAO, sorry.
Thank you. I almost missed it too, Chair.
I kind of tied it to the same one as above, so go ahead.
So did I. The purpose of this report is to provide options in relation to the fees to be applied to short-term accommodations and permit applications, with the staff recommendation being that the fees and charges amendment bylaw 3128.01 be initiated. There is a PowerPoint presentation with this.
Okay, over to Chris.
Great. Thank you, through the chair. So I'll run through my slides here. So just some really quick background again for the board's benefit. So fees are generally intended to assist with cost recovery. It's not meant to be a revenue generator. And very rarely, I think historically, the history of the RD, have the fees actually reflected the costs. I think land use application fees are known for being subsidized. However, of course, the one exception to this was the direction from the board, one, to apply a full cost recovery model to what was then the temporary use permits that were used to issue vacation rentals. And so that set the fee at $2,500, which was based on us doing, as you can see here, an assessment of like how much labor is going into processing these, touches by various people within the planning department, departments, advertising costs over time, and the miscellaneous costs, because of course we have to put fees aside for the APCs, for mailers, venue rentals, etc. The board did, however, set the fee per renewal slightly less at $1,250. So that was the fee structure we had coming into the STR review that was in October of last year, as Ben was saying during his presentation. And so in discussions with the board leading up to those bylaw changes, the fees that were implemented were $500 for the STR. And their understanding at that time was that the STR would be basically issued for a single year, to match the business license, which is also for a single year up to the first, and the business license $500. And then for uses that didn't meet what the zoning bylaw was defining as an STR, we were putting in place policies that spoke to those then being considered as tourist accommodation uses. And if you're proposing a tourist accommodation use, the full cost recovery approach of $2,500 was going to be applied to the permits for those, with again a category for all other non-STR, non-tourist accommodation uses being at the $12.50, which is in the fees. So there has been some issues with the fee. Some of that in relation to the wording that was used, delegated, in relation to STRs that staff could issue. When staff deal with it, less of this process, costs aren't as much, $7,500. Non-delegated, where we're having to bring it forward to the board, either because of representations on the STR, which takes it to the staff's hands, or deemed to be a tourist accommodation use. That was set at $2,500. And then, of course, when the board set the direction in relation to STRs being considered full 3-year term as opposed to 1-year term, well, that caused some confusion. The $500 fee was still deemed to be appropriate or not because it had been premised on 1-year term. So I believe the option that we came forward to last time to discuss further was, I think we'd originally proposed a $1,250 flat fee across the board, but at last committee, the board had expressed a preference for retaining the $500. So what's before you today has that for delegated limits, STR, maintaining the $250, or sorry, the $2,500 fee for the non-delegated, and then $1,250 for everything else. We do feel there's a benefit to moving away from the delegated versus non-delegated, which is simply referred to as an STR, tourist accommodation TUP. The direction for the board on that. And then the alternatives, status quo, so existing fees and references are obtained, or the board can consider setting a different direction to these types of uses. And that's obviously to be determined by you committee, but I've put a suggestion that could look like the $1,250 for a 3-year permit that we suggested at the last committee. So that's it for my presentation. See the administrative recommendation here, which is in relation to the bylaw itself, along with the alternatives. And I'm happy to take any questions directors may have. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or? Director Taylor, start with you.
Yeah. Can I just clarify, this is where we've addressed the health and safety self-declaration?
No.
So
staff.
Yeah, so through the chair, those were the amendment bylaws that were approved during the regular board meeting today. So that amended
So we got them there.
They're in place. It affected the licensing bylaw, development procedures bylaw, and CO delegation bylaw. So self-declaration safety is now in effect.
That was done there
This morning.
Okay, crystal clear.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is the short-term rental permit that is used in areas A and E.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good. Sorry.
Okay. Any other questions, Director Federico?
Thank you to the chair. I'm kind of struggling with this price a little bit because I know feedback from residents was that 500 was too much. So if we've now gone to a 5-year permit or 3-year permit, sorry, then in theory they've only come in the once. So if we could do it for 500 before, and I saw your breakdown that maybe that wasn't a complete cost recovery. But now we're moving up to, they only have to come in every 3 years, and now we're jumping to $1,200. Sort of again, where and why are we doing that? Like, we want to encourage our part-time or our full-time residents are doing this to make it kind of a feasible cost for them. And we've already just put on business license costs as well, although granted it's way less than the $2,500 that most of them should have been paying before. So I'm kind of struggling with the $1,250, and I get the delegated, non-delegated can get confusing, but so like in our area where we have the larger homes where a resident may not be there, we don't have commercial taxation and they're kind of using their house as a commercial use. So that $2,500 does, for in that case, not makes up for it, but kind of does in a way. So I don't know, I'm struggling.
Director Taylor.
I looked at the history of this earlier on when we were looking at STRs in general, and there was a time when you tried to give them away at about 2012 at about a third the price of the normal, and you still had no update. So anyway, I just bringing that back. We've got the $500 nobody seems to be complaining about in terms of the business license.
I haven't heard much on it either from my end. Do we got a direction? Someone prepared to make a motion? First, go ahead, Director Chello. Okay, that's option one, moved and seconded. And CAO, you had a comment?
Just going to talk about the amount. This is still new to us, and I'd rather have at least 1 year history under us before we come back with, we could be coming back with an amendment higher or lower, depending on what history tells us. But we have to start at some point, and I'd rather start with the taxpayer not subsidizing individuals that are making a revenue.
Okay. Any other discussion? We do have this motion on the floor. I'll call the question. Everybody can see it there on the screen. All those in favor? All right. Any opposed? That motion carries. Now down to the director's motions. And I will go to Director Federico first.
Yes, thank you to the chair. So the larger homes, as came to the board last meeting that was deferred until we could have this conversation, is just looking at how we can utilize our short-term rental permit since we don't have TUPs and what we can do. So the city of Penticton has one that's for high occupancy. So just right now support staff to explore what a short-term rental permit for either for high occupancy or alternatives for homes like that with, 10 people that are kind of a little more hotel-like than residential use. And then just what a short-term rental permit around that could look like.
Okay.
So a motion would be in there for staff to explore the high occupancy permit, just see what other areas are doing, and then make a recommendation of what we could do in Area E.
To explore the high occupancy permit.
Yes, please.
Okay, so that's your motion. Is there a second? Oh, first I'll go to the CAO.
Because this is a request that's not in strategic priorities, it needs to go to the board. Only the board can add, and only the board can take away. So it should.
We'll have to see if it gets pushed from here.
Yes.
And it would have to come back to the board as well to fit in somewhere. Second for that. It's on the floor. Thank you. Oh, so Director Coyne got really big on the screen. It's like, whoa, he's right in the room with us. That's good. Any discussion on this? Director Taylor sounds like he has something to say.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, you said 10 people. Is it 10 people or 10 rooms?
I guess it would be whatever's explored as high occupancy. I wouldn't even, I'd almost go smaller, almost at 4 bedrooms, so 2 per bedroom, and then so 4 rooms and up, 2 people per room.
There's other places that have this now, so we'd have to see where it falls. Okay. Not seeing any other hands. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Director Taylor, the motion does carry. Any other director's motions or notices of motions? Seeing none. Rural matters. Any subjects or discussion points? Okay, start with you, Director Taylor.
Had some inquiries just about updates on the grant applications. If staff were able to give us an update on those.
On which grant applications are we?
There are only 2, aren't there? The $7 million grant applications for sewer and water.
Okay, and I will see if there's an update for staff.
Thank you, Chair. The grants are through the UBCM, the Strategic fund, and we have not heard anything at this point.
So
Do we-
it's still waiting.
Still waiting. They're all pending.
Is there any idea of when and today for those kind of decisions?
No.
Okay, I've got texts actually today about that too.
Yeah, it's always the frustration waiting for these results. But Director Federico?
Thank you, Chair. So on that note, the one, because that's the same one we put in for Sage Mesa, correct? So there was no other, like, depending on how the referendum goes, here's another option we want to sneak through. Like, did Sage Mesa took up one of our 3 spots of putting in or something?
I don't think we had any others at that time anyway, but staff.
Yeah, we put in the 3 applications for the for that, and Sage Mesa was one of them. We have since canceled that application, so that one has been removed from their evaluation. But we still have the other 2. We couldn't put in another one. It just wouldn't allow that because they all had to be in by a certain date.
Any other rural matters people wanted to mention or talk about? Go ahead, Director Federico.
Thank you. I was just going to thank staff for working with the ORL. I wanted to do that during our board meeting, but we're carrying on. So I just want to thank staff for working with the ORL for their heating, for their warming and cooling centers. I think that's going to be a benefit for our residents. So I just appreciate staff's time with that.
I see it as a real benefit for the smaller communities, those inside there, because otherwise there really wasn't many options in a lot of cases. So that is a good thing. I was going to mention something that I heard at Silga. It was the discussion, I think it was the fireside chat with the CAO from the city of Kelowna. And it had to do with his method of operating the regional district more as a business to try to generate other funds. I didn't see that as a bad thing until he mentioned the fact that he hit, and we got not long ago, for the fire dispatch, a huge increase to it. And they give us a big line of it being for X and certain reasons, but it turns out it's so that they can make a profit. That's what he said at Silga. And on the drive home, it didn't hit me until I was driving home. All of a sudden it went ding. That's why we got that big increase. So I just thought I'd mention it, that when it comes around again, because I don't know how far or how long ago that was that we renewed that contract, but there is some room for negotiation. It isn't no option for negotiation, which was kind of what we were told the last time. So I just wanted to mention that while it was in my mind, because that affects not just us as rural directors, but the municipalities too. So do you recall, CAO, when that contract does expire or when that came about?
No, but I'll find out and send an email. It's interesting you said, but I have background information about it. Just said, talk to you in camera.
Okay. Interesting. Seeing any other discussions, Director Taylor?
So I've got a brief comment on incorporation, but question about small water systems, because Director Getton's raised this based on something Silga. And I appreciate, I've asked this with staff before, and I feel that it's a dead end or a brick wall, but I'm just wondering if that's perhaps, if we should still perhaps be pushing it and seeing if we can get any movement.
Which are you referring to? I'm assuming it's point of entry?
Yeah.
Treatments? Okay. Director Gettins.
And just to follow up on that, I put together an AUBCM resolution on it that staff's helping me with. That'll come to the board next week to discuss it. The reason it came up at Silga is I talked with Minister Osborne and Minister Neal. Well, and then we all talked now. And there was a discussion about how do we move forward when you have a system and it's going to affect rural areas more because we've got less population, infrastructure scaling everywhere, and how do we balance out cost and what we're trying to do. And it was one of the ministers who said, you know, maybe we need to relook at that in a way. And then when the ministers were on stage, I asked her it again. It was Minister Anderson and Minister Osborne who were on stage saying that there is discussion already happening around that. And it is complex, and I know it's more complex than what I have capacity to understand. I understand why, from a health authority, this would be very hard to agree to. But I just wanted to put in a resolution that we're going to the board, just saying, like, keep this conversation going because something has to happen. We need to figure out something for these rural folks, otherwise, where are we heading? So that's part of it.
Yeah. Good point. We'll see that in the future then. Anything else? Go ahead, Director Taylor.
I just want to flag that residents in OK Falls are increasingly vocal or concerned, I guess, about just the incorporation process. And now that the open house is over and they didn't get the information that they were looking for, the confirmation of direction that the province was going. Yeah, I'm just putting it out there. The community's concerned and frustrated.
It's been a long process. Yeah, right. Tiring process. Not seeing any other. Oh, just quickly, go ahead, Director Roberts.
Yeah, thank you. We've been all here all day, so everybody wants to go home. So, but looking forward to maybe one of our other EAs times that we have. Maybe just quickly collaborating on some strategies around UBCM and for ways forward. You know, I've talked to the CIO. I'm always struggling, wanting to find the most effective way to deal with it, and it falls when I'm spending money in UBCM, and I'm actually being productive. So there are strategies around those areas that can go together and really make a strong force in regards to particular issues. I'd be helpful. I'd be willing to help on your issues and let's all together. And so maybe strategize about that the next time we have an opportunity.
Okay, well, it could be a discussion point at a future EA meeting, even if it's just under rural matters on a shorter day, because it has been a long day today. So with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? We are adjourned. And thank you, everybody. See you, Bob.